Hello and welcome to another edition of Around the Coin. My name is Faisal Khan and I have with me Mike Townsend. Mike, how are you?
Fantastic. Doing great.
Before we get started with the show, a few messages, if you will, and then we'll return back. The RemTech Awards are being held in Kuala Lumpur from May 8th to May 10th, and the IMTC EMEA, which is being held in Brussels this year, will be on 16th through 18th of May. I will be attending IMTC EMEA in Brussels, so if you're attending, please come and say hello. However, before that, I will be hosting the Innovation Jam by Terminos in Abu Dhabi on the 15th of April, and on the 16th of April, we'll be moderating a panel on payments at Seamless in Dubai. If you're in either of the shows, please step forward and say hello. It's always nice to meet people. This podcast has been made possible by support from Terminos. Terminos is the top-tier core banking software provider to 41 of the top 50 financial institutions worldwide. Terminos has been guiding financial institutions towards their digital future for more than 20 years. Learn more at terminos.com. Also supporting our podcast is Stellar. Stellar is a platform that connects banks, payment systems, and people integrate to move money quickly, reliably, and at almost no cost. For more information, visit stellar.org. That's STELLAR.org. For legal disclosure regarding this podcast, please review the message at the end of the show. Mike, how's it going?
Great, man. Yeah, really enjoyed our pre-show conversation. Today is Easter Sunday, April Fool's, and my 1-year anniversary since getting engaged.
And happy Passover.
Pretty good day.
And happy Passover.
Yeah, happy Passover. Yep.
So for
Brian's out today, spending some time with the family, but we're going to be diving into the fragmented world of payments today. Got a few great subjects lined up.
So just to start off with, as you know, I travel a lot and I get to see a lot of things. One of the things I see a lot, you asked in the last show, what is it that I keep seeing again and again and again? What I see again and again is that there is a world that is extremely connected when it comes to data, but it is extremely fragmented or fractured when it comes to payments, which is really weird because a person sitting in Papua New Guinea can send an email to any person on Earth without even thinking twice. But the same cannot be said about payments. If you, let's say, Mike, wherever you are, and you walk into a room with 25 or 30 people, the one thing you know for sure is that you can exchange an email with them. Isn't that the fact? I mean, do you ever even think that you cannot exchange an email with them?
Yeah, no, we're all using the same singular internet network. So, right. Yeah, that's a given.
But yet, if you had to change money with them, you don't even know where to start. Do you take PayPal? No, bro, I don't take PayPal. Okay, bank? Oh, no, bank is too expensive because it's... okay, and so there is such a disconnect in the people you meet, especially if they're international people, that it's not even funny. And you think about it, that we are today connected. We can watch everything in the world. We can see our Uber ride, meter by meter. We can track planes. We can track ships through the Suez Canal. We cannot track money. Once you send me money, there's no way, for example, if you were to do a wire transfer, if I do a wire transfer from myself to Mike, there is no way once they put the money in that black hole, so to speak, what happens down the chute. They can't tell me the money is now, it's crossing the Atlantic, it's reached St. Louis, it's snaking its way down California, or it's now in Mike's bank account. There's no way they can tell that. Even the institutions who manage it. We cannot track.
So why is that? Is that just, I'm picturing they're using the same electronics. They're using internally at the US, the automated clearinghouse, the ACH system, which is, 30 years old or whatever it is. So they're using the same transfer, using the same protocols to banks internationally. Are they stopped because of manual review processes, or is there just built-in lag times that try to reduce fraud or some sort of security initiatives?
It's because we have disparate systems. It's because there is interoperability issues. What do I mean by that? So let's take an example of how email was in maybe the early circa 1980s. You had CompuServe, you had General Electric, you had BitNet, FidoNet, and so many other networks. And there was a way how you had to send email from CompuServe to FidoNet or from DeckNet to I don't know, BitNet and so forth. There was no standard way until someone came and said, okay, enough is enough. We are going to make the SMTP, the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. That's when the @ symbol came in, by the way. And now you have that protocol being the standard worldwide. You remember Lotus Notes? No one uses it anymore.
Yeah.
Do you remember the other mail protocols? No one uses them. It's just email now. We don't even have a name for it. It's just email. That's it. Right?
So it does seem, though, that in the U.S., at least, I think there's this bit of skepticism in that there is almost an overwhelming number of options to send money to people. I'm inundated with Venmo and Square Cash and PayPal and Skrill.
But that's assuming that the sender has access to all those platforms, and that the receiver happens to be using one of them. That's also the assumption that you make. That's also assuming that you are talking to a banked person and not an underbanked or an unbanked person. So there are some assumptions that you make when you issue that statement. The caveats are the finer nuances that you need to pay attention to. However, the United States happen to be one of the 220 plus countries and nations in the world, the sovereign nations in the world. So what happens with the rest of them? There are 1,900 payment systems in the world, if not more. I mean, when we meaning my team, were doing this research, we stopped at 1,900 and we had pretty much covered all the major countries of the world. 1,900 payment systems. And, banking was considered a payment system, right? Rather, like SWIFT was one payment system, Visa was one payment system, the MasterCard was one payment system, and so on and so forth. And then when we looked at how we could do payments between two entities, we started comparing, okay, can this person talk to that person? Turns out, if one entity needs to talk to another entity using only one hop, maximum one hop allowed, less than 3% of the world was connected. Less than 3.
Huh, wow. Yeah, so they have to go through proxies. Is that a real? I mean, it's obviously a better world if everyone could exchange money between each other for free instantaneously across borders. But do you think there's a over exaggeration of the benefits that would bring if that were true immediately with everyone today? I mean, how many people have a need to send money from California to Ghana instantaneously? Where are use cases?
Okay, I want to let everyone know that this is not a question that you and I had talked on pre-show, correct?
Yeah, no, we hadn't.
Okay, because I love this question. I have been searching for an answer to this question for the last 3 years, and I believe I have found it. So the first thing is, and before I answer the question, I want to just give you a little bit of precedence, or rather set the stage, if you will. If I send an email to a person I meet randomly at a conference, and I meet you, Mike, and we exchange cards and say, hold on, just let me send you an email, or let me WhatsApp you, blah, 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 you'll instantly get it. I did not, and you did not for once think, can we even exchange emails, or are we incompatible in emails? No, we did not. You may not be able to pronounce my name, and vice versa. I may not know where, are you in San Diego or San Antonio? Are they both in the same state? Where are they? You may not know about my geography and vice versa. But rest assured, email is email is email at the end of the day. It is going to go through. When I send you a presentation while we are, discussing it, and it was a 2 megabyte presentation, I did not have to think about the cost of that presentation. I did not have to think, will he even get it? Because you say, yep, got it. And he opened it. That was it. And it was my presentation, 2 megabytes in full, in its entirety. Let's say there were 19 slides. You got 19 slides. And with the 19 slides, you got all the words intact. Let's do the same thing when we do it with money. So Mike, I don't know where you are, but we exchange. My first thing is to find out, can I even send money to you? I have to check. Now imagine we're doing this as an email. If I were to do this as an email, I would have to call my provider up and say, hey, so I'm on Gmail. Can I send my email to Yahoo? He says, actually, yes, you can. But okay. And when will I get that? Oh, we don't know. Okay. And how do I do it? Oh, well, you have to come to our branch first, fill out a couple of forms, submit your ID, etc., and then we'll send it over there, and we'll charge you $50 for it or $40 for it. No problem. I go to the branch, I give my ID, everything, and I pay the $40 fee. Then I give them the message. Obviously, I have to send some message. They say, oh, no, 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 no. You can't do this. You have to write at least 10,000 words. I said, why do I have to write 10,000 words? He said, we have a minimum. You can't send anything less than 10,000 words. I say, you got to be kidding me. Seriously? 10,000 words? He said, absolutely. 10,000 words is the absolute minimum you have to send. So I go back, I write 10,000 words, I come back, I send it. I call up, I say, have you gotten it, Mike? He said, nope, haven't gotten it. I call my bank, I said, do you know where it is? He said, nope, we've sent it. And this happens for a day or two. Eventually, one day, you get a call from your email provider, say, Mr. Mike, I've got an email from Faisal who sent it from Pakistan. I say, yes. Well, you need to come to our branch. What for? Well, we need to understand who you are and who Mr. Faisal is. Okay, fine. So you go there and, you have to pay maybe $5 for it. And you finally get the much needed 10,000 words I sent you. And guess what? It's 9,284 words.
Well, I guess it's still better than the sending a letter, maybe.
Right.
But that much better.
But 9,284. He said, well, hold on. Whoa. Faisal sent me 10,000. What the hell is the rest? Oh, the correspondent bank shaved some words out. The 19 slides that we had, well, it's only 18 and a quarter. And guess what? Where we are shaving the other, that 3/4 off, we don't tell you. How would you react to that?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd be complacent if that was the existing system in place.
But we fixed it. But we fixed it, didn't we? But that's exactly the reality of sending money to you. So the question is there a need from California to Ghana? I would answer that question in a bit, but I want you to understand. This is not based on hearsay. This is based on me having gone from, like I say in my lectures and when I meet people, I've done this from the most posh areas of, let's say, Paris down to the shanty towns outside, Dar es Salaam and Tanzania and everything in between. And what I have seen is that payments are extremely, extremely broken. There is a swarm of people who are entrepreneurs. What they bring to the table is that they are in, how do you say it? They are very, they're always thinking how they can make money. And the only way they can make money is by providing a service, right? So if someone wants to work for Google, so let's take Google. Let's say I'm a person, I'm living in Accra, Ghana, and I wake up every day. I'm very disciplined about how internet is going to make me money. I put up a website, and this website is dedicated to the safari experience, the travel and safari experiences in Africa. And every single day I put up content on it. Slowly traffic starts coming. I do SEO, everything else, etc. Traffic starts coming. And, things are happening. Eventually, I qualify for Google AdWords. And I put Google Ads. And at the end of every day, I make maybe $2, $3, $4, $5 of ad traffic. So at the end of the day, I'm making $5. And at the end of the working week, let's say, some days are less, some days are more. Give or take, I make $25 for the week. That's not a bad income, $25 for the week. What's the problem? The problem is, Google says, I can't send $25 to Accra, Ghana. Why? Well, because my bank charges me $30 just to do the wire transfer. So there's no way. Some
critical critical mass they have to reach for the transfer.
And that number is 500 usually.
So, I mean, it begs the obvious question, which is, do we even try to, as the expert in the space, do you see us realistically trying to fix this broken system, or is crypto just going to displace this?
I'll come to the crypto part. So, but think about it. This person has earned $25. It can probably put 1 week's worth of food on their table. And yet there is no way for him or her to receive the money because Google doesn't have the ability to pay that as such. Or Google and Google's payment service provider does not have the ability. Even if they had the ability to pay, it would be in a very inconvenient form. They say, we can take a prepaid card that we issue or a wallet that we issue outside your country and we'll keep the money in dollars, and every time you charge it, we'll charge you a ridiculously high fee for using that wallet. although the money is instantly transferred to your wallet, and by the way, we will make money on the balances we're holding on for you because that's how they work. So Google has no way of paying out, and this person has no way of receiving the money. And Google says, until you don't get to the $500 mark, I will not even let you get the money, because after 500, I will charge you $25. I will push the money out into your account, and you will get it. How much you will get exactly into your account at what FX rate? Guess what? I can't even say. Even though in the US, there is a law known as the Regulation E by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which says for person-to-person transfers, you have to let the receiver know that the sender is sending exact amount, this is the fee, this is the FX rate, and this is how much will land into their account. But guess what? This is not a person-to-person transfer. It's a business-to-person transfer. So they don't even have to follow the law. Now, a similar example is if you are a travel agent, and you're living in, let's say you're a travel agent in Kathmandu, Nepal, and there's a couple that comes and say, hey, we want to go to Orlando, and you book the tickets for them. So they have a really nice time in Orlando, and guess what? You book them into the Marriott. Marriott owes you $37 worth of affiliate fees because you referred a customer, the customer paid, they did their thing. Marriott cannot pay $37 in travel affiliate fee to a travel agency in Kathmandu, Nepal, because they don't have a way of doing so. Same problem as Google. So do you see how much money is held back or is being held back?
Yeah, it's all the smaller trades, the things you wouldn't even think of. I think when we think of trading across borders, it's typically, I want to send Faisal money directly, but what you're saying is that there's whole networks that can't even exist. They're not even above water because there's no way to send smaller transactions.
Because in the international money transfer world, cross-border, we only deal in wholesale. Think about that for a second.
So then, that's awful.
We only deal with wholesale.
I have to
imagine going into your local corner store and say, the missus wants a pint of milk. Oh, I'm sorry, we only sell 10,000 gallons. Think about it.
Yeah, no, that's brutal. Right. But Faisal, do you see any resistance to the idea of joining the, I guess, conceptual bandwagon that just Bitcoin will drastically improve these things?
So Bitcoin,
we're sitting here with another option that just is 10 times better.
Yes, but we're also sitting with the option and the hurdles or the old establishment that is known as the banks, right? So we have to look at that particular frame of reference, if you will, and then say it. Someone told me once. He says, let the past die, kill it if you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. We can't let the past die because the past is actually the custodians of our money at this point in time. We can't do anything about it, but that's how it is. Here's the thing. And this is a very interesting experiment that I do, and everywhere I've gone, it's worked. If I were to ask you how many transactions in your city or in your country, let's take city is easy, or in your state, that are over $100 every single day. Number of transactions.
How many transactions I do that are over 100 in California?
Not you. The state of California, how many transactions are conducted in the state of California that are over $100 every single day?
Oh, God. In the order of 1 million, 100,000, somewhere in that range.
Okay, so let's take 100,000. 100,000 is not a bad number. So if we take 100,000 transactions happen in California every single day that are over $100, and if you take the 100,000 and because it was $100, it was 100. What does that come out to be? 10 million. What's the value of that? If each transaction is worth $100, so it's,
say $10 million. $10 million.
$10 million, right? So $10 million. So do you think that the state of California only does $10 million worth of transactions every single day over $10? Over $100?
Uh, you're making my guess sound low. I suppose
Right?
the moral is that there's a
Maybe
ton more transactions that are small than
exactly.
large.
So let's make that a million. So 100 million a day would be more appropriate, correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So now the question is, taking that 100,000 or the hundred or the million transactions a day. Let me ask you, how many transactions between 0 and 99.99 in the state of California every single day? And that includes the $5 you pay for a burger, the gum, the cigarettes, a bottle of beer, Seven
Yeah,
Eleven,
probably on the order of 100 times
a hundred
the
times
number that
more.
are over
A hundred times more. Okay. So if we have 100 million, then we're going to go to 10 billion because that's 100 times more, correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. We already know the amount for international for person to person transactions on an annual basis. It's 600 billion. It's a published number. And this is over $100. Internationally, if you want to send money from a person to another person, remittances as they're called, the World Bank and many other organizations and countries keep track of this thing, and that number is estimated to be somewhere around the $600 billion mark. But the world internationally, cross border, cannot do transactions below $100. We already established that fact.
Yeah, it's brutal. So there's basically a 99% of the market that is we're missing out on. Well, I suppose internationally you're less likely to. Maybe it's not true, but I would
So
imagine you're more likely to do smaller transactions locally.
imagine if you were, so based on that 600 billion number, if I were to use your 100 time multiple, or shall I even reduce it and use a 10 time multiple, it's still a $6 trillion problem,
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
right? And
Do you
here's the
think we're
answer.
seeing the?
No, and here are two things that you asked me. Is it something that's like a low hanging fruit? No, it's not even a low hanging. This is fruit on the ground. There's no effort required to pick it up because low hanging still needs to be plucked. There is inertia required to get to that height to pluck it. This is low hanging fruit. No, this is not. This is fruit on the ground.
Right.
When you
Let
say,
me ask you, do you see that the crypto is starting to enter this market? I mean, is this where the bucket of use cases are? Because there's a bit of skepticism I see in Bitcoin, which is the number one is that where's the use cases? I can put money in, I can hold it, but in the US you can do that easily. Internationally, are you seeing people just keeping their funds inside of Bitcoin, transacting internationally for free, instantaneously with as much money as they want? Displacing their local banks.
it's a difficult question because Bitcoin's original motive, what it was, has changed. It's no longer a currency as such as it is a store of value, right? So it's more of being treated like an asset or a commodity that you want to speculate on and keep it rather than a transactional currency. There are other units that are more, let's say, applicable for purposes such as like Stellar's XLM or Ripple's XRP or Litecoin or Ethereum in some cases, etc. But in most cases, Bitcoin barring, there are currencies that can do this thing. But the real problem is not that is the solution the Bitcoin. We're not talking about the solution right now. We're just talking about the problem. The problem itself is what happens when you do this. Based on the example we just said, if you just talk about person to person, there's a potential that we can have possibly $6 trillion worth of trade. This trade would be person to person, not even businesses. God knows how much the businesses will put in. But this amount would actually increase the GDP size of the world by 6 trillion. Well, that's just a rough way of doing it, but it will. So you have to understand when it's like, when email was invented, how many emails do you send are native to California, and how many do you send that go out of California? Think about that for a second.
Information is just there's demand to have that from anywhere. I think the immediate use case to send money to all over the world is probably lower, but as people start to make websites that they want to transact, I mean, everyone individually can contribute to the value built on the internet. whereas now you can't contribute in a micro sense
Yeah.
if you're, in certain countries. Do you think, given the price of Bitcoin now at, just over 6,500, I think it's $6,500, or under 7,000 US dollar per Bitcoin, is that an indicator that are you super bullish on prices skyrocketing back up because you see that, it has to be true that if what you're saying is true, that there's a, 90% of the market for cross borders internationally is untapped or hasn't even been, email equivalent hasn't even been invented yet. We haven't really even started using Bitcoin effectively internationally, that the price must be undervalued. Would you take that stance or
No, I
reject
wouldn't.
that stance?
I wouldn't reject it. Can you go into your bank today if I gave you 100,000 and get a cashier's check made?
I guess.
Okay.
I've never tried.
I'm sure.
Also, at one point of note, my bank doesn't even have physical locations.
I know.
So
You
for
bank with
me, it would not
USAA.
be-
But let's say,
Yeah, I love.
your significant other's bank or someone else, right? So but a traditional bank, you could plonk 100,000 and they'd make a cashier's check. How much would they charge you for it?
No idea.
$20?
Yeah, $10, $20. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you could argue with them to leave the name on the front where the beneficiary name is put to be left blank.
Okay. Yeah.
And that means anyone who holds that thing comes in, scribbles a name where the beneficiary name is supposed to be, and shows a valid ID matching that name. The bank would have to cash that check, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
So next day you come in and you plunk again another $100,000 which someone has given to you, and you say to the cashier, to the teller, I don't want one check for 100,000. I want 10 checks for $10,000 each. Theoretically speaking, they can do this for you, no issue. Just take slightly longer. Maybe they'll charge you on a wholesale price $15 per check, and they'll make $150 on it, right? Agreed?
Yeah, I mean, the system just is so clearly broken. But to me, it's like
But here's the best part. Third day, Mike walks in, plonks 100,000, and says, "Listen carefully, honey. I want 100,000 checks of $1 each."
Yeah, I mean, if I'm fully on board. I mean, there seems to be countless ways to express how broken, fragmented, expensive, and slow the existing rails are. I just keep getting like gravitationally pulled to the idea of how do we break free of these shackles, and what is the pathway for, for us as listeners, maybe entrepreneurs out there thinking like, where can I help like explode my local market? Is it finding a proxy for people to get their bank to crypto?
If this bank were to issue you the very same cashier's check, which by the way is an IOU, in case you were wondering, it's an IOU by the bank because the bank owes you, right? And the bank is holding on to your money. If we could somehow agree that the bank would come up with a digital token, which is based on the same principle or the same premise that it's holding equivalent dollars in the back, there is no concept of, let's say, volatility in the price of the crypto. It's a token, it's $1, and now we have the $1 equivalent in digital form. Correct?
Right.
And now if that token if that token can be traded worldwide down to 1 cent, and it can only be cashed at that bank, we have a stable coin. It is not affected by inflation. Well, it's affected by the whole inflation as such, but it's not affected by trading because it's just a coin. It has a face value of 1. Whatever it is, you buy it at $1 and you sell it at $1. And that's what's stable. In this case, Google can buy, or Google service provider can buy $37 worth of coins, send it across to a provider that they work in Nigeria, who will accept $37 worth of coin and do $37 worth of equivalent Naira credit into the bank account and hold on to the coins. And these coins can be traded. And if they ever accumulate, for example, 10,000 coins, and they ever go back to the bank and sell it, they will always get 10,000 back. Never less, never more. So the solution is there.
Yeah. Do you see it as a proxy that banks will start to use? You see it as will we see a USA digital coin and they'll exchange it for digital coins at other banks in other countries? Or do you think Ripple comes into play with that one?
Yeah, I mean, see, Ripple is an issuer itself, right? But let's talk about a small bank. When a bank issues an IOU, and let's forget about international trade. Let's just talk about domestic trade. That IOU is issued to someone with KYC, correct? They came in,
Right.
and now Mike buys this IOU. Mike gives it to me. I give Mike a lawnmower. He sells, and he hands me the payment. I decide to accept his, I decide to sell my lawnmower that you want to buy, and you give me the IOU, and I take your IOU. I, exchange it with car tires to vacation to dog food to logo designing to furniture making. And now the furniture making guy says, "Hey, I want the money." He walks into the store, into the bank, hands him his ID. They take all this information down, and they cash the check. So Mike and the furniture guy are the only people that were known to the bank as far as KYC was concerned. Everyone else was no different than it was with cash, correct? In our case, the digital token can be made as such that whenever it goes from Mike's wallet to the guy who was selling the lawnmower, to the guy who was doing the dog walking or the logo designing, etc., every wallet is identifiable. You can track in a semi-autonomous manner or in a semi-anonymous manner where the money went. And when it comes for, let's say, encashment, you obviously have KYC. So there are ways that banks can come into this. This is what banking is all about. It's making products and services for the industry that they feel that there is a demand for. And in some cases, the demand is not there. They make a product and the demand props up because suddenly people realize that this product can help me do this and this and this. So I feel.
Well, can I ask you this and tell me where you see that is that, excuse me, you have this banking infrastructure now, which has been around for 100 plus years, I'm sure far prior to that in some form or another, but we have an electronic rail system that's used pretty ubiquitously throughout the world. It's like you said, it's broken, it's slow, it's highly regulated, it's inefficient in every way possible.
And centralized.
Right. And so I'm struggling to believe that there's any way that the banking system remains relevant in the next generation, the next wave of innovative payment technology. Everything that the bank does, why couldn't we build that on a decentralized network or having other, maybe even web-based centralized services offer maybe escrow or, anything banking does. If you go through the list of examples where they provide value, you can use decentralization and blockchain to provide that same value. Everything from storing my digital assets, which USA does now, Bitcoin can do, for much cheaper, loaning money or escrow or providing, I guess, loans for me directly. I mean, what's the thing that keeps banks in business, going long term forward? Or is there nothing? They just, they're blockbuster on the way out. They're blockbuster in the year 2000, where we see it in the event horizon, but it's just in the early days.
So in the 1300s and 1400s, the biggest industry, can you name it?
No. Farming, I suppose.
Farming was smaller, actually.
Spoil.
But it's pretty close. It was spice trading. Spice trading. People used to trade spices, and they were nutmeg at one point in time was more expensive than gold, if you can believe it. Yeah, spice trading. And today, obviously, spice trading wouldn't even come in the top 10 of the industries and trades and so forth. But that's it. Things come, things go. We've held on to what is called the banking as quote unquote a system that is systematically tied into the rule of governance, to diplomacy, to wars, to trade, to finance, to so many things. It's not going to go away easy. I will tell you that. It's going to go away, just not easy. I derive my answer from a very unknown source or known source, depending how you look at it. Some people laugh. That's okay. I let them laugh. But I believe if you look towards the future, of how it was predicted by Gene Roddenberry, there was no concept of banking and money there. What wealth as we know it suddenly ceases to amuse you or hold a value the very minute you discover another planet or another species or another anything that is outside this planet. So barring till that event, banking, I don't think so, is just going to go down without a fight. There are going to be, the United States, for every senator, for every congressman, and may come as a surprise for you, there are five paid lobbyists from the banking industry for every congressman in the United States.
Well, that's just bad news for the U.S. I mean, I can see this being
and
a
it's
situation
same thing everywhere else.
Yeah, same thing in healthcare, where maybe if you look at countries as companies, and you're imagining from a strategic standpoint, if you're the leader of one of these countries, who takes the lead on this next wave? And I can't imagine that China or the U.S. to some extent is better. China seems to have a ban first mentality, but there'll be countries that, regardless of size, which is a beautiful thing, they can take stances that make them so much more attractive from an entrepreneur standpoint that maybe people just start moving there. I mean, maybe you have this giant immigration you have the giant immigration of the world leading cryptographers moving to New Zealand because New Zealand decides to take laws that are incredibly open. So now you have this Silicon Valley 2.0 is going to be in Auckland, New Zealand, because they allow people to come in. I mean, to me, it just seems like that is going to be true. I mean, you see Binance, the CEO of Binance and his team move to Japan out of China because of China's rules. And it's not going to stop Binance,
and now
right?
to
It's not going
Malta.
to stop movement. Right, exactly. So I'm thinking like maybe that's just the beginning of the end for US. And if we don't adopt this rip the Band-Aid off mentality, then we're just going to drag ourselves in the mud, which, that's the US's prerogative.
Well, I mean, U.S. is one country, right?
I mean, the overall
there are others. But, the funny thing is every now and then, 10, 20, 15, 20 years, a technological, something happens where the racetrack, everyone is reset to zero. There is no United States ahead of China, ahead of Japan, ahead of Russia, ahead of India, ahead of Philippines. Everyone is in the same race. Blockchain was one of those. Crypto was one of those. What literally ails me is the fact that you have countries that can now leap forward in this because they've been given the same level playing field as the United States, as Germany, as UK, China, India, Japan, Russia, and yet they choose to ignore it. So I feel you're right. Japan is now going to become crypto friendly. There are 16 exchanges that are on the horizon already working, 16 on the horizon, 100 plus that will be coming up later on. And they will not say we will touch the US dollar in fear of getting banned by the US or touch the euro or the British pound. They say, oh, no. We only accept Japanese yen. What will that do? Well, first of all, it's going to bring a lot of direct foreign investment into Japan because the Japanese yen will be in demand. And then they will convert all their money into Japanese yen into crypto and then. So I feel that they're going to have a huge thing on this thing.
Yeah. So let me ask, shifting gears a little bit, what is the recent downturn, the great sell-off as we talked about pre-show? The Bitcoin price has dropped, from I think all-time high of close to 20,000 down to 5,800 at its lowest recently. What do you view as the pulls for that price shift? And do you see pulling the other way?
Yeah, two things. I think investor fatigue, right? So you hold on to the money, and I think you say, okay, you know what? Enough of it. I need to liquidate. And I think there's a lot of investor fatigue going on. So people have been holding on to various forms of coins. Those coins in themselves cannot be sold, or even if they are sold, they're sold for Ethereum or Bitcoin, and then you go and sell the Bitcoin for fiat. So this is driving prices down. So I think there's a lot of exit happening in the market. And second, with that exit, in conjunction with what is happening with the regulations and the banning of the Facebook ads and so forth, And MailChimp will not allow any mail spam to go out with the word ICO in it, etc., etc. I think it's just exacerbating the whole situation, and it's acting as a negative catalyst. It'll go, it'll finish, it'll deplete itself, and then maybe it will rebuild. And I think I'm pretty sure it will rebuild, but I think it's going to go. The squall period, the period of the storm, is going to be what it is. If it's 6 months, it's 6 months. Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, it seems that there's a thesis, antithesis, and synthesis going on, which is, there's an initial proposition in the market, which is, as people imagine all these infinite use cases, there's just this overexcitement in the market, prices skyrocket. We realize that we're actually in the year 1998 of the internet, building protocols, scaling to more than 15 transactions per second on Ethereum and blockchain remains difficult to this day. Then everyone's like, let's hold back. It's not about the pop. We're in the kind of dot-com excitement level, and we're probably in the antithesis, which is the reaction to the initial momentum, and it'll probably settle somewhere in the middle for a while. I would hope. I think that's probably a good thing. Then you want some shift, some reaction in the market, but you don't want continued volatility for extended period of time.
I think someone just said amen because they bought Bitcoin at 15,000.
Yeah. No, there will be. I mean, I look at it and think there's overall close to net zero contribution here. I mean, where there's people who have made Lambo money have gotten it from other people who have contributed at high prices. So, which side note, I saw Ripple donated close to $30 million to everyone on a crowdfunding website for diseases. I forgot what it was, but they made an incredible donation, which I thought was an amazing use of funds. I don't know if you had seen that, but I want to make the other point that there was in the .com boom, there was a early institutional investor tsunami, which drove up prices, and then retail followed on. Individuals who bought into public stocks after the IPO. Here, it's the exact opposite. Actually, crypto and retail and speculative interests are the one driving up early prices. And now you see these aggregators, whether it's a crypto hedge fund or digital funds that are getting together, and they're the follow-on. So institutional investors, are the follow-on to the initial speculative interest. And I think that that's a interesting flip if you consider the implications of that. That the ones driving up price were the individuals. I mean, so I think now there's probably going to be a lot more money coming into the market because you have these larger rails. So in the short term, I'm pretty bullish. I still see it as a buy low scenario at this point.
Well, I think in the coming months, everyone has been predicting that maybe the first 6 months of the year are going to be harsh, and the second 6 months are going to be more greener pastures, if you will. But we'll see. I think these are very exciting times. We keep saying that every show, but it just gets more exciting every time more. As the months go by. But let's see. We'll keep in touch, and we'll keep a finger on the pulse and see what went right and what went wrong.
All right, man. Well, hey, have a great day today, and I really enjoyed this episode.
Sure thing. We'll have to stop, and then we'll speak next week. Thank you, and bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the hosts, co-hosts, and guests appearing on the show, and do not necessarily reflect the view of the owners and producers of the show. Paid advertisements in form of audio announcements may appear throughout the show, including this one. Advertising can also include print and other digital formats. The owners and producers of Around the Coin do not endorse or evaluate the advertised product, service, or company, nor any of the claims made by the advertisement. All programs are subject to a one-time charge for professional editing fees, for which the interviewing guest or guests may have contributed towards. The owners, producers, hosts, co-hosts, and guests on the show are not financial advisors. Any investment advice or opinion cited during the show is for information purposes only. None of the content is intended to be investment advice. Seek a duly licensed professional for investment advice. If you believe there's been any violation of your copyright, trademark, service mark, or any other type of intellectual property, please inform us in writing by sending an email to legal@aroundthecoin.com.